Yeah, when it comes to equipment, like I like things that have multiple purposes. Like
Yeah.
this, for
Yeah,
instance, like
exactly.
you can
Oh,
mobilize with it, or mobilize with it, whatever.
Stretch,
Yeah,
whatever.
stretch.
stretch
So
anything.
yeah, it's a great tool. Thanks, Kelly, for that one. Kelly Starrett made the mobility tool and whatever else that was designed to do.
Hmm.
Cool. So we're going to be talking about training athletes today. And there's a lot of confusion around what that should look like. And specifically, what we're talking about is ball sport athletes. So, what I've been seeing is strength coaches trying to replicate the sport in a way that doesn't really make sense. So, it's blurring the lines of a strength coach and the ball sport coach. And while it's like super flashy and gets a lot of attention, you have some experience with that,
Yeah,
and it not working out too favorably. So,
100%.
if you want to share your background when it comes to sports and
Yeah,
things that may have happened?
yeah, absolutely. So, I played beach volleyball professionally, and prior to that, I played indoor volleyball starting at the age of 5 and retiring about 23 years old. So, a very long career for sure. And especially in the start of the career in the indoor volleyball space, I had a lot of injuries. Like, probably from the time I was 11 all the way up until starting training for conjugate, like at 17, I got injured every single year. And these were injuries keeping me out for like 6 to 8 weeks almost every time. So it was fractured spine, fractured tibia, contusions in the shoulder, all different kinds of stuff. And so I had a volleyball coach who was training with Shane at the time for her sport. And she was like, listen, it is absolutely critical that you start strength training of some sort because you're not going to make it to your college career if you don't do something
Well, that's cool
different.
that she recognized that. So,
Well, I mean, she didn't get
yeah,
to utilize an athlete because I was out the whole time.
right.
And, I was a critical part of the team and I could hardly ever participate. So she's like, it's definitely time to look into something different.
So, what were you doing outside of volleyball at that point for strength and conditioning, or was that just basically irrelevant? You just did more volleyball?
So it was usually structured with the coaches, right? So they were in charge of your strength and conditioning, and strength was hardly a part of that. It was really mostly the conditioning piece, and it's more just like run the person into the ground to see if they're mentally tough enough, right? And that's how I got most of my injuries
Right.
was the constant running, the constant jumping on sport courts, which are like basically pieces of plastic like this thin that go over cement in convention centers. So really very hard on the joints, very hard on you over long periods of time. And for me, I was an athlete that played all the way around in volleyball, so I never came off the court. Where most athletes sub in and out. So the repetitive motion injuries were a huge problem, especially for me.
The interesting thing though, you have a lot of what I always call technique coaches. If it's a wrestling coach, they're the technique coach. Offensive coordinator, they're the technique coach, right? And you have a lot of these people who are in charge of doing the strength and conditioning work, and they only know what they were taught growing up
Right.
when they were competing, right? So the technology is already old, and that was already probably taught from someone who's in a similar space they were. So it wasn't a real, true strength coach that taught them. They're not a true strength coach on top of it. And so the problem that we have is, like I see these, like wrestling is a good example. I see a lot of guys run wrestlers into the ground like during like up to season, and they're like, we gotta get more conditioning, more conditioning. Sport specific wrestling is the best conditioning for
Yes.
wrestlers
Yes.
there is, period.
100%.
You know, and so it's like, they're a better coach at wrestling. They should use wrestling as a conditioning tool
Yes.
for these athletes instead of say this running other things like when she was running in sand, they switch her to running on turf. Well, that's hard on athletes because they're not used to those types of materials, and it reacts differently in their joints, right?
Yep.
And then you say like you started your first injury, your injury started to happen at what age?
Like 11, 12.
Okay, and then until 17, so you came in to
Yeah.
my gym. So let's say 6 years. Say like the injuries last about 8 weeks. After the injury, it'll take you about another 8 weeks to get back to where you were before the injury. So that's 16 weeks. Okay. And we said how many years was that, did I say?
Six,
6 years? 6, 7 years. Okay, so let's say 6, right? So you're at 16 times 16 by 6, right? So what is that? 96 weeks or so? So that's almost 2 years of not progressing forward.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
people don't understand. They're like, oh, 8 weeks, like that's not, it sucks, but that's not big a deal. Like, no, no, no. Like this athlete loses close to 2 years or maybe even 2 years of progression
Well,
forward.
and also it's like think of a season, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not the whole year, so you're hurt in your season.
Yep.
6 to 8 weeks out of a season, I mean, that's almost half a lot of
Having
times.
having a good strength coach, if you avoid all those injuries, you can have athletes who are their experience on the court field can be years advanced from other kids the same age just because they didn't receive the injuries that keep them out from
Yep.
progressing and missing the experiences on the court or on the field, and not progressing forward in the physical output or the techniques that they could have learned or honed even in better to farther length.
Well, and also if you look at it like this too, outside of club teams, up until you get to college, most of these coaches are fulfilling basically an additional duty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a fucking science teacher or they're a history teacher or whatever, and they played fill in the blank sport back in high school, or maybe they didn't even do that, but they need somebody to cover down on this sport, and it's an additional thing.
Yeah.
On top of what they're already good at. They spent all of their energy and time becoming really good at teaching, being an educator. And it's not to say that there's not any carryover to that. But if you're going to be good at something, be really good at that thing.
Yeah.
Right? That's why, like, at the highest levels in the NFL, like, you look at, you have your offensive coordinators, you have your defensive coordinators, you have, all the different specialty positions have a coach, then you have the head coach, and they have an insane level of understanding about their specific niche and other things going around them. What you don't see those dudes doing is going in there trying to be the strength coach either.
Yeah.
Right? There's this that dedicated strength coach for the team.
Stay in your lane.
And everybody stays in their lane.
Yeah.
And the moment that something breaks down on that team, whether it's, hey, these athletes aren't strong enough or they're getting injured, they look to the strength coach and he's got to go. Right, and they bring in another one. If they're not moving the ball the way they're supposed to, the offensive coordinator is going to go. If the whole team isn't vibing and something just isn't correct all the way around, or there's a internal staff conflict, the head coach is out. Right, but in high school or middle school, up to that point, it's like, hey, Leon, I know you're you're a history nerd and a history major, and you spent your entire life learning about history. But guess what? Now you're the track coach.
Yeah.
And you're like, but I didn't run track, and they're like, it's okay, you'll figure it out. You're an educator.
Yeah.
That's okay for some, right? That's okay for some. But if you have a high level athlete who has the potential to go on to the next level, you need somebody who's going to be good at that sport, and then separate from that, you should have a really good strength coach.
Yeah.
We don't live in a perfect world. I appreciate anybody who steps up to help kids and help people and coach. But coaching at lower levels versus she was playing for the highest level teams. Obviously she went pro, so she wasn't a middle of the road athlete. So she was playing for the highest teams and still have these issues. This is where I start to have a problem. The other thing too is it's okay if you're jumping in. This is not your number one job. This is your secondary thing. We appreciate that people like you step up and help athletes. But when you have a professional come in, don't take it as in we're knocking you or putting you down, or we're here to help. And a lot of times people take offense to the suggestions we make and like act like they know better. It's okay. You don't know better. That's fine. People like me, I've tried to offer my help and I've helped for free plenty of times. If I see someone who's going to volunteer or, like say, like a teacher who takes on a school sport afterwards and it's not really their thing, but they need someone, so they step up. I've offered help plenty of times for free, and I don't expect you to be the expert, but also listen when an expert does come up to help you. So from those experiences, you started getting hurt, and then which led you to train at the gym with me. And at the first, we talk about like when we work with athletes, the number one thing we had to do is we have to get an athlete buy-in. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and how'd that work for you?
Well, it started off with probably a 2-hour conversation because this was critical that I start this process. And my coach had communicated with Shane prior to me meeting, and she's like, hey, like, you got to get this girl in here and you got to keep her or else she's not going to make it.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty committed to the process already because I had big goals. I wanted to play in college, professionally, and beyond. But Shane wanted to make sure I knew how critical this was. And so there were a lot of conversations around what the system was for conjugate, how it builds athletes, why it works, all of those things. So I actually could understand, like, okay, this is how I'm going to get the progress, essentially. And so there were a lot of conversations, especially in that first like 4 weeks around training. And he's like, listen, in 4 weeks, you are going to get a result. You will get faster, you will jump higher, and you're going to feel better when you return to sport.
Hell yeah.
And I was not playing any volleyball at all. My injuries had gotten so bad. He was like, you got to stop playing. No volleyball, 4 weeks, which I don't think I had done in my entire life.
The actual hell.
Yeah. I mean, I was crawling out of my skin. And he's like, you got to trust me. You've got to trust me.
So funny.
So no volleyball, 4 weeks. I was training 4 days a week with Shane, just 1 hour a day at the time. But throughout the whole time, we were having conversations about what max effort is, what speed work is, what the explosive training is, and why are we doing these things. And he was very good at pointing out when there was progress. Like, hey, there's this 10-pound PR. Look at you jumping this much higher. Hey, look at that accessory movement. Look at how much better you're moving today. See when those knees used to cave in? Now you're pushing them out. Look at that. And I was able to point that out even at, even at a younger age.
And I really like I like that, and that's something I've been trying to be better at as a coach is celebrating those micro wins because like you talk about wins build wins, right? And it's habit stacking, and it's just like, hey, if I can get this person to accept this one thing, and I think a lot of times, and this is just me, other high performers, you want perfection and you're working towards that, and in your mind you're saying, hey, that looks better, we're making progress, but it never comes out of your mouth. Hey, that's better, or look at this, and you're not reinforcing those things. And a lot of times, because we're just continuously pushing for perfection, and in our minds we're saying, hey, that's good, we're making the steps. But if you don't say that, the athlete's not going to get that level of buy-in too. They don't understand.
Well, and athletes who are really high level, they want the perfection too.
Right.
And so in that 4 weeks, I wasn't 100% bought in yet. It was a progression to trust, right? Because I had kind of been shit on in the past, right? Being told this is going to help you, this is going to help you. And it just broke me down. And so I needed those verbal, like, look at this, watch this. Did you notice that? To be able to be like, okay, yes, I am seeing the progress, and I can trust that this is going to work long term for me.
Oh,
Yeah, and you obviously you get a buy-in. What do we talk about important things? Like you talk about CrossFit says this, we talk about intensity, right? High intensity, right? The more bought in someone is, the more intensity they can give you.
Yeah.
Because even on a subconscious level, if you don't believe in something, how hard do you go at it?
Well, yeah, because intensity is relative to the individual, right? It's both their physical and their psychological tolerances.
Yeah.
Correct.
So in your situation, you've been shit on so many times, so like, maybe not physically saying like, hey, I'm not going to give 100% to this thing because I don't trust it, but like mentally probably there was some kind of barrier or block saying I'm not going to fully commit to this thing. I'm not going to fully give you everything I got because I'm scared I'm going to get fucking hurt again.
Oh, it was noticeable. Like I remember in high school, and at that time I was way above everybody else because I started at 5, and so that's a huge advantage being like this tall and, playing the sport and stuff. So even the coach, she knew that I had exceeded her knowledge level, right? But
that's cool. That's a good coach.
Yeah, she was a good person for sure, like noticing that. And so, but we had like hell weeks, right? That they put the kids through. And it's really like a mental toughness thing to weed out the kids who you don't want to necessarily cut, really. But they would do a 30-minute run for volleyball players on pavement. And I'm like,
when do you guys ever do that? That's training a cross-country team at that point.
Yeah, and it was so dumb. And I knew it was dumb. I didn't necessarily know it was right, but I knew that was wrong. And so I'm doing this thing and I know that it's dumb. And so I'm literally walking with my legs, but moving my arms like I'm running to make it look like I'm running. And she calls me out and she's like, Leanne, you're running like my grandma and she is dead.
I hope that she listens to this and hears your impersonation.
Oh my God, I hope so. She was really funny. It was awesome. But I didn't take offense to it. I just laughed. But I'm like, me and you both know that this is not the way. And you're just giving your best effort as to what can weed out the kids and, give them some physical activity, but this is not correct.
The problem is that harms your best athletes. Your low level athletes, that doesn't harm because they don't try as hard and they can't mentally go to places to push to the kind of intensity to get those injuries. But if she was to have pushed as hard as she could,
Yeah.
because that was the other option, some kids, when they compete at anything and everything, and it's like they're going to give it all, and those are the ones who are going to get hurt, are usually your top people because they can actually have put out enough to get hurt, right? So we talk about like when people follow like our programming and Justin puts in a ton of notes, videos, things like that. It's because I always tell people whenever, if you've ever taken any of my seminars, people have heard this. Your gym should be an educational facility. As a coach, you're an educator, right? So that education does quite a few things. One, it gets athlete buy-in. I was educating her on her improvements in position, her acceleration improvements, range of motion, her joint improvements. And I was explaining what the next step was going to come. Hey, in another 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to get this. And then, in 2, 3 months, you're going to get this. And then this, and I kept getting these milestones. Well, what's important about those milestones is that you don't lie. You give someone something that you can honestly get to. For me, I always like to give someone something where they literally, the first thing they think in their mind is he's absolutely insane, but then it happens.
Yeah.
Because if the thing that I told them they thought was insane, there's no way they would get to that point in that time period, and they do. And then they start to think, whoa, maybe this guy's onto something. And then I do it again and again and again. And after a point, I took all the stress away from her. So what's interesting is we were having a conversation earlier, and I was talking about when your body releases cortisol from stress. And one of the big things that releases cortisol and causes stress is the unknown. Okay? So as an athlete, I was taking the unknown away from her, explaining what was going to get better and what timeline and how and why, then showing her the little micro PRs and adjustments that were getting her towards that so that she didn't have any unknown anymore and I could take the stress off of her. Because what you find is a lot of athletes can be high stress individuals because they have such an expectation for themselves and what they want to do and what they want to accomplish, and they're always their own worst enemy, and that is why they always show up and do the extra work and do everything you tell them to do, because it's out of that fear of not doing everything they can to make it or not being able to make it to where they want to go. So by laying out programming like this, and so basically I always tell people good programming doesn't just build someone physical, it builds them psychological. So we have a programming structure that leads to success, and then when I explain to the athlete what to look for and show them where the improvements are, then after a while I won't even need to tell her where the improvements are. She would start saying,
Yeah.
I just did this last time, this is the way I did it. Or notice I maintained a better position this time, I'm strong enough to maintain the position now. She would recognize those things.
Well, and if there's going to be
Right.
anybody in the world that takes really good notes and pays attention to their performance, it's going to be a high level athlete.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
They're going to study every little detail. So you're not going to bullshit that individual either.
correct.
Right.
But once you start showing them the value of tracking these things, they're going to do it to another level
Mm.
that a typical person that walks in your gym wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And then they can start having that log and start
Yeah.
figuring out like, hey, this is where I'm getting better. And you don't
Yeah.
even have to guide them through that process anymore. One of the things that's always frustrated me, and we've talked about this, is like you take a high level athlete and you're trying to run them into the ground to break them or something. It's like these are the same people that won't change their fucking socks during the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're very superstitious individuals, and
Yeah.
like everything has to line up perfectly for them to have the perfect game.
Yep.
So you're already fucking with their mindset
Mm-hmm.
to a point where you're inflicting more doubt in
Mhm.
something that's already like they're constantly battling doubt.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
If they don't have the right socks on, if they didn't fucking tie their shoes a certain way before the game, right? All these things are fucking with their heads. Like,
And
how
this is
much
another
sleep did they
unknown.
get? Yeah,
The
that's
strength train is now another unknown on top
yeah.
of it.
You can't add another unknown to that. That needs to be the most consistent
Mhm.
and reliable thing in their life.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, it was. It absolutely was. Like, I knew every day that I was going into that gym, there was a structure. I understood what was happening. I knew I was going to PR every time I went into the gym. It was just, what were we going to PR
This is
on?
before all the apps and shit. So like, you really didn't know what you were doing until you got to the gym. You just knew you were set up for success, right?
Oh, yeah. I was like athlete dumb when it came to strength training. I
Like
didn't.
you weren't able to like pull up your phone and look at this cool app and be like, all right, cool, we're gonna do this, this, and this. You just knew,
No.
okay, this guy's got me. And
Yeah.
whatever the fuck he says to do, like, is in my best interest.
Yeah, 100%. I just came in and I'm like, tell me what to do. basically.
That's
I'm
awesome.
I'm here for the torture, you know.
Yeah. And how did you feel after the first time you went back to volleyball after the 4 weeks off?
I literally felt like a superhero. It was so noticeable. It actually threw off all of my technique because I was jumping so much higher and so much faster. I remember I was playing defense and someone like did a shot or whatever, and I ran and it hit me in the face.
Because you were jumping higher.
Well, no, I
She-
was digging
she got
and
there too
I got there too fast.
Oh, that's
My
fine.
timing was off for how quickly I could get to the ball. And so, you know, because 4 weeks for me taking off that much time, that was a lot. So I literally had to like recalibrate everything to match my physical capabilities. And so it's like, okay, now you can go back to
She
practice.
was jumping above stuff. She was getting to stuff early.
Yeah.
She actually had to wait. She had to wait, like, and then start to go to the ball. Where before it was like everything you do to get there.
Athlete
You know?
IQ is insane.
Yeah.
I've seen something recently where Kobe was warming up for a basketball game, and he kept shooting, and he was missing his shots, and he kept telling, "Hey, this hoop's off,"
Mhm.
right? And they're like, "The hoop's not off." And Kobe started getting mad. He's like, "Hey, this fucking hoop is off. You guys
Yeah.
need to check it." The hoop was off by a quarter of an inch.
Mhm.
They adjusted it, and then he started sinking buckets again. So, like, to your point, like, hey, I know exactly how to time this thing, but now I'm way more powerful than I've ever been. So, like,
Yeah.
now I need to relearn my technique a little bit and adjust it with this new power. That's really cool.
I mean, it was comical, and it was funny because I was working with the coach that Shane had worked with, and so she's laughing her ass off. She thinks it's hilarious because you can tell that the training has worked, and I'm pissed. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And she's like, look at all these capabilities that you have now. And she's
You're
like,
a whole
well,
new
we just gotta recalibrate.
Yeah.
And it only took like a week of training,
Yeah.
right, to get back because it's not like I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
But and then it was like, okay, once the recalibration happened and the next tournament happened, I was like, dude, I'm a superhero. Like this is insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the one thing that was really cool too is it wasn't just that I was better at performance. People noticed.
Yeah.
It was like a physical thing too, because like when I was trying to get recruited, I was like, I blended right in. I looked just like any other person. You couldn't pull me out. And it was really because I didn't make mistakes.
Yeah, tell her about what the coach. Like, tell them about what the coach said.
Yeah.
Texas, I think,
So
Texas.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Actually, no, not
Yeah,
from Texas,
sorry.
but it's okay.
Steers and queers.
So
Texas.
So I was playing this tournament and I won everything as a kid, and I could not get noticed by a recruiter to save my life for college. And so this club noticed me up north in Ohio, and they were like, will you play with our girl who's already been recruited to FSU? And of course, I think that that's a great opportunity because
Right.
she's already recruited. This is great. And I was way better than she was. And they were drooling over me. Like, they actually wanted me to move and live up there with them so that they could train me and I could
Sleeping in my basement.
yeah, and my mom's like, no. But they were like, my mom's like having the conversation, like, why can't she get noticed? And they were like, how would you notice her? She makes no mistakes, but she doesn't do anything flashy. She doesn't hit real hard. She doesn't run real fast. She just knows this game so well because she's played for so long that she doesn't make any mistakes. And so that's a big problem in a way when it comes to
Yeah.
recruitment.
The coaches would see people who like say hit real hard.
Yeah, but they
and do
missed.
also getting like, okay, I'm a coach, I can fix
can
that.
fix
and they could be really good.
It's potential.
But they would
Yes.
never pick her up, but she's winning everything.
And so, you know, even just after 4 weeks of training, the physical change was very noticeable because I hadn't strength trained ever in my life. And so I was asked to go out to like this expedition tournament in California where they partnered youth athletes with pros. It was like a
Okay.
pro-am kind of situation. And I showed up there and you could just see fear on every girl's face. They were terrified of me.
Hell yeah.
And so I'm all like puffed up. I'm like, yeah, that's what's up. Like, you know, because I was never really, I was always the one served in volleyball, which was basically like, that's kind of your weak person. And then they figured out really quick, that's not really the case. I just look like a Weenie Hut Jr. You know, I didn't look like anything threatening. But I went to that tournament, they served the pro the whole game because they were terrified of what I might do.
That's awesome.
It was just physical. And then all the recruiting started, and it's like, oh, we want her, we want her. And it was just, I didn't really change that much from like a technical improvement perspective. Obviously, I was jumping higher, hitting harder, those types of things. But just getting the physicality was really what ended up separating me apart from
Yeah,
everybody
because
else.
either like, hey, as an athlete, you either have it, like the sports side of things, or you don't. Like strength training will make you a better
Yeah.
ball sport athlete, but if
Yeah.
you're not at the highest level, it's not probably going to make
Yeah.
the kid that doesn't understand his left from his right foot
Yeah.
Yeah.
become a professional athlete,
No.
right?
Right.
But it is going to
He might get off the bench.
you might get that kid off the bench, right? And we have a really cool story actually. When we launched the programming initially, there was a few high schools that decided they were going to jump on board,
Oh, cool.
which was really cool. And there was one up in the mountains in North Carolina specifically where the school didn't have the facilities to train the athletes, so they contracted it out to a local CrossFit gym. The first thing they did was they hit us up and they were like, hey, this is what we got going on. What can we do? And I said, hey, I want you to try this program, Loaded. It's produced 130 world records, and counting. And I think you guys are going to get really strong and you're going to fix a lot of imbalances. So they did it and they ran it. And then they ran it for football. The football team ended up going to the state playoffs for the first time in the school's history.
Wow.
Then the school was like, hey, can you do that for our other teams? And they were like, yep. So they did it for the basketball team. They went to the state playoffs for the first time ever. Then they did it for the wrestling team. A bunch of their people went to the state championship. So it was like on and on and on it went. And it was just like nothing changed about the physical athlete per se. Like these kids, just like you, had been playing their entire lives.
Yeah.
They had the IQ of the sport.
Mhm.
The IQ of the sport didn't change. The coaches that were on the field didn't change. The only thing that was changed was how they trained when they weren't on the field, right? And a lot of those imbalances they're having, and anecdotally, which I thought was also really cool, it was the lowest injury rate the school's ever had.
Yeah.
So they were producing more, they were fixing all these imbalances, and their kids were staying healthier, and a lot of those kids got to go on and play college sports.
It's amazing.
Well, you spent 6 years getting injured every year, and then once you started training with me, during the whole time training with me, how many injuries?
None.
0.
And it's not even that I didn't get any. All the others just dissipated. Like, and I remember that was some of the buy-in too, right? Because I had a bad knee. They wanted to do the surgery for patella tracking disorder, where they release that tendon or whatever. And my mom didn't want me having surgery that young, and so she's like, let's take this seriously. And so the first session that we had, you worked on my IT bands and explained to me what the IT band does, what are the deficiencies causing that tightness. And I laid there and cried while you worked on it, but it was like instantly pain relief. He's like, we're going to make this permanent by strengthening your hamstrings and glutes because your quads are too dominant, and explained why they're too dominant and all of those things. And the knee pain was gone after you worked on it that one time, and we spent those 4 weeks. And then the other problem was my back pain, because I had gotten a stress fracture in my back, I think at 13 years old. And they braced me. I was out for 9 weeks. And I lost all my core strength, and therefore I continued to have pain. So they kept me in a brace all the time while I was playing. So therefore I had no T-spine rotation.
Do you think that had something to do with why maybe people didn't want to recruit you?
Well, for sure.
It's like Frankenstein on the court.
right.
Yeah, I was puzzled, and I was just bracing my whole body.
You're like, this girl's a liability.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And so that was a big concern too. And Shane's like, well, she has no core strength, 0. And so I couldn't even deadlift. I couldn't pick up 135 without back pain. But in 4 weeks, I was deadlifting in the 2s, like 225,
And as a pro volleyball player, what was your heaviest deadlift?
As a pro, I probably got to 365 in my pro career as a volleyball player.
Okay.
Once I transitioned out of that, we definitely got that stronger.
Yeah. But, and what was your heaviest as a volleyball player?
435.
No, your body weight.
Oh, my heaviest weight, 165 was the heaviest.
So 165, all the coaches would tell her she had to lose weight because for her height, she's 5'9.5". So for her height, they were like, that's way too big. The 6'2" girls were lighter than her, a lot of them, right?
Oh, yeah. Like they're usually a girl who's about 6'2", 6 foot to 6'2" is between 145 and 155 pounds.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny about that too is like a lot of those girls, you can't tell where their hamstrings start
they're
and their
sticks.
glutes end.
Yeah.
Sticks.
Right. Like
And-
so, it's and if you look at high level volleyball players, I haven't seen one without big glutes.
Yeah.
Like it's the only reason why people watch beach volleyball, right?
Yeah, I love the bikinis.
The funny thing with her is she's outweighing everybody, and everybody's like, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight. But she's getting to the ball faster than everybody else. She's changing direction faster than everybody
Right.
else. And she's not getting tired by the end of the competitions.
I got to tell a story since you're bringing this up. So that specific coach that Shane's talking about, because I was working with a group of men at the time training, because I had kind of exceeded everybody in the female space. And so my coach, he was very thin, very small, and he was a very good volleyball player, but he had no idea what I was doing in the gym. But he knew that the average volleyball player weighed between 135 and 145 pounds. And he knew how much I weighed. And so he's like, you need to lose some weight, and started bringing a scale to practice
Hell yeah.
for me to stand on.
That made you feel great.
Oh, it didn't make me feel like
Yeah.
anything. I was like, fuck you, I know my results.
Yeah.
No, this is ridiculous. So one day he says, we need to meet up and have a conversation. Meet me at this location, and sends me a pin. It's to his strength and conditioning facility, okay? Which is like to Colby or D1, like these places that you send your kid in high school
Yeah.
to do. And so he thinks that he's gonna put me through something I've never been through before and kill me and say,
Yeah.
you need to lose some weight, you're not conditioned. That's what he thinks. And so basically it was like ladders and, shit like that where you're going through. But the main thing that there was they had strung up like little lights. And it's a drill where the lights would go in different directions, and you would do like blocking footwork and see if you can get there before the button flashes off. And I was just crushing him. And I'm not a blocker either. And he wasn't, but I'm not a blocker. That's not my
But she's also
footwork.
never done this, and he goes there every week.
Yeah. and I was just absolutely obliterating him at everything. And he's like, Leanne, I gotta tell you, he's like, I did not think you would be this good. Imagine how good you would be if you started coming here.
They always do that.
And I was like, Chris, are you stupid? I'm like, are you stupid? I'm like, why? I'm kicking your ass, and I've never been here before. And the thing is about those places.
your own
Now you come to my gym and you try to do what I do.
Yeah,
So-
right. And like those places are to learn agility, right? And that's fine for an athlete who it has never played the sport before, right? And they're being introduced to something for the first time because they need to learn how to move efficiently. But for me, I've been doing
People
this
are
since I'm
training
5.
agility more and more and more now that it's becoming this social media fad and trend, and what we're seeing is more and more ACL injuries.
So,
like,
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to tell you about that. This is one of the things that absolutely drives me absolutely insane. When some place calls themselves a strength and conditioning place and they do agility work. If you don't know how to name your own business properly, you're probably not an expert at it, okay? So, I don't sit there and say, I have a pizza place, and you show up and I have a hamburger waiting for you, okay? So, this is the problem. If you are an expert at agility, you're going to name your place that. You're going to name it after and say, this is for agility work, okay? Or hand-eye coordination. You are not going to call it a strength and conditioning place because that would be an insult to you because you're a high-level coach at agility or
speed,
hand-eye
performance,
coordination.
something.
Yeah.
You would call it something different. But every time I see, oh, my kid went to strength and conditioning over here, it's like, oh, they, go in and out of cones and stuff. Oh, yeah. No, they didn't do strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
You okay? So, because, the thing is, like, I see these places and they have your kid do an hour worth of agility work, but if you know anything about the central nervous system, your body can't do an hour of highly skilled set movements like
Right.
that. You're going to actually create improper motor patterns. So,
It's a
good job.
neurological skill, so it needs
Yeah.
practice, and practice doesn't
Yeah.
happen in
Yes.
hour-long bouts of.
Correct. So, what he didn't realize is she beat him at his own game. He thought if she got more practice at it, would there be some improvement by doing a little more? Sure. I gave her the ability to do whatever she wants. He gets to practice something, gets better at it by practicing, but never built himself to get better at it.
Mm.
That's the difference. And so, people would always knock stuff until, like, she had a Russian coach that
Oh,
He
was.
thought weight wise, like you're gonna need to lose weight. And then he saw her move, he goes, whatever you're doing, keep
No,
going.
actually,
Okay.
he loved my physicality.
Yeah,
Like
he
when
no,
he
he did.
saw me,
Yeah.
he was like, "You're going places." He
Oh, yeah.
thought it was amazing, and then he
Yeah.
saw how fast I was and how high I jumped. He would just laugh, and he's like, "You this high above the tape, you know." And
Yeah.
so he's like, "I can do anything with you."
Yep.
Because you've played the sport since you were a kid. It's getting the last 1%, and physically you need no help.
Funny, the Russian coach was happy with it.
Yeah,
He
right.
was the best. He was so amazing.
Yeah.
I loved
This is
him.
very good, very good.
Yeah.
Jump very
so-
high.
Oh, sorry. No, you're good.
No, good.
He was so funny because obviously I had a lot of habits that he wanted to break because we were getting to that next tier, and he would do this thing. He called me Lee. He's like, Lee, it's so easy if you just do it right. Do it right.
Do it right.
It's like, no shit. You know?
And what was his background?
Yeah, he played men's Olympic volleyball in Russia
Oh, yeah.
for a long time, long time. And then he coached there,
Mm.
and then he came over here. And then he had his own club and stuff like that. But then he also was helping coach the Olympic teams. He actually went to Tokyo to
Yeah.
be an assistant.
So this guy wasn't a joke as a coach. And you look at Leanne, we were talking about who did you beat when you were a teen, like who you just played?
Oh my God, that's my fourth Olympian I've played. So Kristen Nuss was, I played her in high school, and we didn't know. I ran into someone when we were getting a rental car, and he's like, "Hey, you remember that tournament that you played in, in Gulf Shores?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he's like, "That was Kristen Nuss, who's like, they're the number 2 Olympic team right now, but she's like a 5'7"
And-
beast."
Yeah.
And then Nicole Branna was the
And
first.
but you won that tournament, right?
Yeah, I won that
Yeah.
tournament.
So,
Oh, yeah.
but so I'm saying is like she's getting information. This is not a low level volleyball player. She wasn't with low level coaches who are excited about her output. She's with high level coaches playing high level individuals, and everybody's constantly shocked of what she can do. But she's not training like everybody else. I watch a lot of these volleyball players, and it's like they do a lot of these balance things and like kind of fitness fads, and it's like, where is your output? What qualities are you trying to improve? There's no rhyme or reason for it. Are they maybe in better shape? Sure, but you can get better at yoga. It doesn't mean you're going to be a better fighter. You have to have qualities that translate over.
So, did you play volleyball growing up?
At 5'7", highly recruited, but I decided it was not
Yeah,
a sport.
right. It wasn't your jam, right?
No.
Like, so, and I'd venture to say you probably
No.
weren't a fan of the sport. And I know you like all sports, right? Prior to this, and you probably hadn't worked with a whole lot of volleyball players. So how did you know
No.
this person coming here at a high level you were going to be able to fix? Like, what was your thought process when you were breaking this athlete down piece
Yeah.
by piece? Like,
Mhm.
how did that work?
So here's the thing. She was the second volleyball player that I trained. The first one was her coach.
Oh, third,
Okay,
because you did
third?
Monster.
Okay, yeah, which she was number one in the world as a libero,
Libero.
or number one in the country as a libero. Was like they wanted her on the Olympic team. Like she was
A libero was.
They're like a defensive specialist,
Okay.
so they just do back row.
So she was the third. She was the second who played beach.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
first one who only like I know she played indoor, but like her main focus when she got to me was beach. That was what she wanted to play. So the thing is, like, what I look at, I appreciate all sports. I don't watch sports on TV a whole lot. A little bit if something really excites me, you have a standout athlete. I like to see an outlier, what they do, and pick that apart. I watch Olympics, things like that. But I very rarely just sit down and watch sports. I watch a lot of fighting, but that's about it. When I see a sport or when I get an athlete who wants to come in, I start turning on and watching the sport. If I feel like I need to, I'll find the highest level coach I can, reach out to them, ask about the position that individual's in, what's the most important attributes, or like the 3 top injuries that happen in that sport, so that I know how to like this is what I started doing when I was younger. When I got older, I didn't need to do this anymore because I had enough experience where I didn't need to. But if you're a new coach, I'd say find the highest level, and that doesn't mean like go to the local high school down the road. Reach out to the highest level person you can find, number 1 in the world, and if they don't respond, go to number 2, go to number 3, go to number 4. Get the highest level person you can. Learn what the injuries are. But as a strength coach, I'm supposed to know my job. And what that means is I should be able to look at an athlete and see the speed of the sport, and then I understand what speeds they need to get better at. Then I watch my athlete move doing that sport and see what speeds they're lacking or could bring up the more efficient, get better at. I look at structurally, like volleyball players, a lot of times you see someone say who hits right hand, their shoulders rolled forward
Yep.
because they go from like shoulder to hip. So there's usually a little cock to their body, which means the hips are literally tilted a little bit, which causes the IT band issues and causes the knee issues. So what I'm going to do is I want to, number one, you want full function on the joints, right? You want something structurally perfect first. So you want to get the shoulders moving, optimal, full internal external rotation on shoulders, hips. You want, if they're tilted, you want that come back. I want to bring that shoulder back into position. So I start using special exercises to strengthen all those things
What does that look like for
to
you?
bring
So
it.
you have this athlete that comes
Yeah.
in, and we're not gonna talk about now, but
Yeah.
like back in the day when you
Hmm.
first started out and you were going through this diagnostic
Yeah.
process, because now it's like second nature. You don't even
Yeah.
think. You have somebody that comes in and you're like, hey, this person is getting injured in their sport. I don't know necessarily what it is about them, but something looks wrong. And what is the steps? Are you just doing basic like movement screenings, like show me your squat, show me your press? Like, what does that look like for you?
For me, like I if I can, I like to see a video of someone in their sport, but that doesn't happen that often before I get to work with them the first time. So I literally just I ask them, what's bothering them, what are they good at, what are their weaknesses and strengths on the court or on the field. Where do people beat you? Where do you win? What feels hard to you? Then I watch the way they move. So like when she'd walk in, like if you her toes pointing really hard, okay.
Pigeon toed.
Yep.
Oh, dude, so bad.
Yep.
I still even sometimes trip over my own feet.
And that's years of playing volleyball too, the way they approach and hit their jump, right? So then I asked her the question, I'm like, are your toes pointing in like that? Have they been like that since you can remember? Or is this something that happened because of your sport? And I just start asking questions. But really all I need to do is put her into a compound movement like a squat, something like that. And then I start to see structurally, can she maintain position? If she doesn't maintain position, like really is this most simple example, the knees come in, right? Did the knees come in because she doesn't possess the mobility in her hips to keep the knees out? Did they come in because of its weakness? The simplest way to do that is if she's on her way down and I'm telling her knees out, and the knees cave in, and on the way back up, they're in, they come out at the exact same spot that they caved in at, I will check because I can check her internal external rotation, but most likely it's a mobility issue. If she comes down and the knees are out the whole way down, and then she goes to come up and her knees have to come in, it's because her hamstrings are weak and it's a strength issue, right? So what we would end up doing is looking at where she maintains position and loses position, and then where is she at her fastest, and where does she lose speed? So in a squat, does she come up slow off the box? Maybe she comes up slow off the box and she gains speed all the way through. Maybe it's speed the last 1/3. Maybe it's speed in the middle. And she starts to lose speed again at the end. And then by knowing where she loses speed, that's where I know that if there wasn't a break in position, that is a weakness. So then just what muscle group was involved in the position she was at, and that's where we need to get her stronger and build speed
Well,
at.
then you can also use your accommodating resistance to attack those weaknesses,
100%.
right? So, like, if it's the upper third, then you
Yep.
might use bands more than you would use
Yep.
chains. Not to say that you would go away from chains, but chains
Yep.
would typically be that individual who's sticking in the middle. If they're
Right.
if they're really slow out of the bottom, or they get stuck at the
Straight
bottom,
weight.
or straight weight.
Exactly.
So there's this system has been designed to give you an answer to all your problems. The guy that just won the CrossFit Games this past year, Jason Hopper,
Yeah.
comes to the gym. Work with him as soon as he walks in. I'm like, hey, here's what's going on with you. Boom, boom, boom. He goes, I've been here for 30 seconds and you just picked apart everything without asking me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, look, dude, I might not be the best at marketing,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm very good at what I do.
Yeah.
And I understand the way the body works. And he's like, okay, so how do we fix it? And then we started working through the process. That guy is very intelligent. His individual awareness is at a higher level than most. He played Division I football for Clemson as a wide receiver.
Nice.
Wow.
The guy is a real freak athlete. Like he could have potentially gone to the NFL had he put more effort into that. He went into a different direction. And the very first time he stepped into CrossFit, everybody was like, this guy's going to win the CrossFit Games. But he kept falling short. He got cut at the games one year. He didn't make the cut line. And everybody's like, I don't understand what's going on with him. And I finally reached out to him and I'm like, hey, dude, I can help you.
Mm-hmm.
So I helped him. And what was cool about him is he was like, hey, I'm not 100% ready to commit to this program, but I am 100% ready to commit to what you showed me.
Yeah.
And so he took the knowledge and implemented it into what he was already doing. and within less than 9 months, he was a completely different individual among
Yeah.
CrossFit Games.
Mhm.
So it's like we're not saying like, hey, you have to like abandon ship and do exactly what we tell you to. Like, yeah, would that be optimal? Of course it would be. Like, because we know, and then we can give you that feedback. But if you take the things that we're telling you about yourself, like, hey, you're slower in the upper third. You can watch a video and you can see that. Do
Yep.
you have a problem with lockout? Do you start to stall out in the middle?
Mhm.
Right? Are you slow off the bottom? Do your knees cave in? Like when you're watching yourself, ask yourself, like, hey, are my heels slightly lifting up? Is it because I'm quad dominant? Am I not shooting my hips back far enough in the squat?
Mhm.
If you train that way, you're going to solidify bad movement patterns, and that shows up the moment you walk in the door. I should be able to tell that.
Yeah.
And if I can't tell that, and like, that's the thing is you know to wrap this, you know, put a bow on this, is like you looked at Leanne, you're like, hey, your toes are coming in. Why is that? Like you start asking those questions, and she's like, dude, I just got in the fucking door. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, hey, we're working now. Like I'm not going to waste any of your time because your time's valuable, my time's valuable. If we're both not working towards the same goal, then we're wasting our fucking time here.
The second you open my door and walk through, I'm looking at your facial expressions, your demeanor, your structure. Are your shoulders off? Are your hips off? Are your feet off? I'm looking at everything because everything's an opportunity to fix a fault, fix a problem, and make progression forward. And I don't have time to waste. So the thing is, like, understand the sport of your athlete. Understand the sport of what the speed is, what the recovery times are, what recovery looks like within that sport. What are the injuries? Why do those injuries happen? How do you prevent those injuries from happening? And so then what we do is we had to increase your strength. So we did max effort. Weird. So, and we got 1 rep maxes in.
5x5s. That's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of odd.
Person who was falling apart. 5x5s.
And then, we had to increase her speed. Faster she could get to the ball, the less balls that will hit the ground. I asked her, I go, what? I asked her right off the bat, I go, explain to me your job. And she said, my job's to keep the ball off the ground. Got it.
Very aggressive game of keep the balloon off the ground. 100%.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm like, I got it. So that means laterally, she needs to move laterally fast, she needs to go forward fast, she needs to go back fast. If she has to be able to jump up and block, or the higher she can get, the more angle she has available to score a point. So if her ball is hitting on the other side, hitting the ground all the time, she doesn't have to worry about it hitting the ball on her side. So like,
so if you're watching an individual squat and their knees are coming in, you already know that's going to be a whole nother issue when it comes to moving laterally.
Correct.
And that's a potential ACL injury waiting to happen.
Exactly.
So you can't just give that individual more agility.
Correct.
Because you're stacking shit on shit.
You mean the other strength and conditioning?
Yeah, the strength and conditioning / agility drum.
Yeah. See, the problem too is with that is the better you get someone at that agility work means they'll change direction faster, but they didn't get any stronger, so they're actually getting closer and closer to injury. The better you make them at that agility.
Yeah, so if their adductors are lagging, right?
Yeah.
Then they're going to cut really hard that way. Yeah. Their knee's going to stay here.
And that's where I always that's what always bothers me. That's when how many times I want you guys, any strength coaches out there, any athletes out there, how many times have you seen like the highest level athletes on a team get hurt during training because they're the ones trying the hardest?
Yeah.
And I hate that the best athletes, the ones who try the hardest, are the ones getting hurt. That drives me absolutely nuts. Now sometimes they don't because they're just those rare athletes that are really, really built resilient. Their body's built tough like that. But what we have to do is that's the nice thing about the system is we have a strength component, we have speed components. The percentages of bar weight will be directly correlated to the type of speed that needs to come out of improving the athlete for their sport, right? And then our accessories are not for squat, bench, deadlift. The accessories are for her sport. So then it's, if she can't keep her knees out on a wide stance squat, she's not gonna have a good knee position when she's cutting and doing a lateral movement. So yes, once I get it perfected in that, then, hey, show me footage or let me come to a game and watch a game, because it's going to be harder for her to keep her knee in position during play than it will be for her underneath that squat. Okay?
And that's not to say that, hey, sports are hard on the body, right? There's going to be freak things that pop up where individuals get hurt. I had a rugby player, 5'9", 160 pounds, way undersized for the sport. And he was a human fucking pinball. This guy, he was the most physical person out there. He wasn't playing rugby. He was playing, I'm going to fuck up the guy in front of me that's twice my size.
No.
And he blew out his PCL and PCL, ACL, partial tear in the MCL. Like his knee was fucking shredded.
Yeah.
he didn't know anything was wrong with his knee. He just thought it was a little swollen. He had a 550 box squat at 160 pounds with all that going on with his knee. Had no fucking idea that his knee, and he was still playing in the game, but he just kept saying like, "Hey, my knee's sticking. It's feeling like a little loose." He just said a little loose. He finally gets the imaging done. He gets surgery like a week later. They cut him open. They said, "You have the thickest ligaments and tendons we've ever seen on an individual."
Yeah.
And they were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He's like, "I just do a lot of these weird banded hamstring curls," and like he couldn't really explain it to the doctors, and the doctors were like, "Yeah, whatever like you're doing, just keep doing it, like because it's fucking working." And I forget which one it was. I think it might have been his PCL. It basically scarred over, and they were like, "Hey, there's no reason to cut on that," so they repaired his ACL, MCL, and sent him out the door. And this guy went back to playing in record time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so most people that would go through that process, you're talking about 12 to 16 weeks of rehab and everything else. He was like, I think like a month later, he was back out there. Like, should he have been? Maybe, maybe not. But like to this day, he hasn't had another injury. And that was just because somebody literally blasted him in the knee that was twice his size. As he was running, they came laterally into his knee and just fucking wrecked it.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, if the athlete's going to get hurt, because like you said, when you're pushing that hard in sport, you are bound to get hurt eventually. I mean, it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
But make sure it happens in the sport and not in your gym.
Right.
Because before I went to Shane, the knee injury happened running suicides.
And it should be contact related. If it's gonna happen, it should be a contact related injury.
Well,
not like I stepped the wrong way and my knee dropped in kind of thing. Like, that's
I mean, volleyball's not contact, right? But it's impact, right? And so the knee injury happened running suicides. That's the coach's fault. Why are you having them run that many suicides? We're not built for that. The back injury was warm-ups.
So that's a pet peeve of mine. I took a collegiate football team one time, and I took them out for running, and I said, "Hey guys, we're just going to do 5 sprints today," and they laughed because since the beginning, since they were 5 years old, they would line up on the sidelines, and the coach would blow the whistle, and they would sprint to the other side. And then they would do it in 3 lines, and by the time they got to the other side, it was time for the first line to go, and they would do that back and forth, and the coach would, even when I played football, the coach would always say this: "All right, if this last one's better than the first one, you don't have to, we can be done." Right? Magically, everybody gets faster, right? That's not how that shit works.
Right.
So I told the guys, I was like, "Hey, we're going to do 4 sprints today," right? That's it. They all laughed. I was like, "Let's just see how it goes." And I said, "But we're going to take at least 5 minutes in between. We're going to treat it like a true max effort." They came to me the next day and they were like, "I've never been so fucking sore in my life."
Because you can actually give 100%.
I literally just did that with Justin.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a funny thing too, and like we have that in the programming, like in different variations of it, where it's like, "Hey, we're going to put you on the assault bike. We're going to do 5 rounds of this."
Yeah, we just did 5 rounds of 20 cals to a boxer.
And then you take at least a full 5 minutes in between, and everybody's like, whatever. Even CrossFit athletes are like, "Dude, I do calories on the bike all the time."
I did that to Deontay Davis, Tank Davis, the boxer.
Oh,
yeah. If you know boxing, you'll know who Tank Davis is. Anyway, he was at my gym in Cincinnati, and I put him through that, and the guy hit the ground, and you could tell he was contemplating life and wondering what was going on. And the thing is, like, he put, to his credit, obviously he's a absolutely amazing, boxer, absolutely awesome. Yeah, awesome to watch, great boxer. And he only had that response because he was willing to put the effort in to get that out of himself. Right?
So I made you do 5.
I can't remember with him.
It wasn't a lot though. Like
it was 5, maybe 6 at most.
Yeah, so you're talking 100 to 120 calories for somebody who's prepared at a given's moment notice to go 9 rounds.
Yep. So he'd go well past 9, no problem. So he hit the ground, and he looks at his coach, and he looked like he was going to rip his coach's head off. And he goes, "What have you done to me?" He goes, "Why can't I do this?" I was like, "Whoa." Like, I would not want that guy questioning me. No, his coach is a great guy, but here's the thing. And I told him,
max effort is max fucking effort.
I told him, I go, no. I go, "This is not your coach's fault." I said, "Your coach has done a great job." I said, "He's done a great job within what everybody else in boxing does."
Yeah.
I said, since I had today with you, I wanted to show you what you were lacking. I said the stuff that no one else will do in boxing unless they run into someone like me. So, I was like, there's things that we can do to get you to run a higher pace and recover faster in case you get into that war,
Yeah.
you know? But most conditioning in boxing isn't going to really help with that. It builds a good, steady endurance for the whole fight.
Well, I love the
Yep.
fucking bike tube because it's hands and
Yep.
legs at the same time, and it's
Yep.
you're if you truly give every fucking ounce of what you got for
Yep.
20 calories, it's hard to do. But you have to be a tough individual to do
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Like to truly sprint. That lactate buffer though,
Mhm.
like you're just pooling lactate into your biceps and everything. Think about the value of
Mm.
keeping your hands up and you're constantly
Yeah.
straightening. And then you sit down and your body's like, oh,
Mm.
we're done.
So I have a
And
guy.
then you have to do it again and your body's
Yeah.
like, what the fuck
And the
is going
lactic
on?
acid is just like.
So it's yeah, it's just lactic buffering. Like it's insane the feeling you get from that. And 100 calories would be nothing to that guy if you just put him on
Yeah.
the bike and told him, "Yeah, once you get 100 calories done as fast as you can,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he'd do it."
And I
And
think
it'd be a
anything
great
like
workout, and he'd leave and would
He-
never think of it again.
it wouldn't register in his mind. It wouldn't be hard enough workout. He would never do it again. It wouldn't serve a purpose to him
Right.
because his sparring and stuff would be at a higher level than that, so like he wouldn't do it. So I explained to him, like, this is not your coach. I was like, my job as a strength and conditioning coach, not agility or technique coach, is that I find where you can get better to, because here's the thing. I would have to check. I'm sure he's the number one pound for pound fighter right now. He's got to be. I think he's been for quite a few years. He's undefeated. He knocks everybody out. And but the thing for him is like, cool, but you want to be that Mayweather and going 50-0, I think he's right around 28 to 30-0 right now or whatever, 30 something and 0, and maybe mid 30s. It's like everybody has that one guy who's on their best day, and you might be on your worst day, and they're on their best day, and that one stylistic matchup that doesn't work for you, and you might have to have another gear that didn't exist in you before.
Now, and this is a guy that hasn't been introduced to the system previously, so
Yep.
like, and he's already, as you're, saying, one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world right now. Imagine that guy being able to use this system and then be able to store greater amounts of kinetic energy and then to be able to deliver
And more power.
his worst shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, his worst shot being what his best shot used to
Yeah,
be.
I will say this in all honesty, he's pound for pound the heaviest hitter in boxing right now. Like, if he hits you with either hand a clean shot, you're gone. Like, that is just it. I would love to permanently work with him because he'd be knocking people out with jabs. This guy hits, so, but it's just one of those things that sometimes I'm not saying him, I'm just saying sometimes when people are at the top or other coaches have produced the top athlete, they don't think they have to do anymore.
Yeah.
And you never know that until someone else sees that they have to change the game to beat you. And then when they change the game, you're now playing catch up and you got to figure out what the heck they did. And then you got to become an expert at it, but they're already an expert at it. That's why they just beat you at it with it.
Well, that's exactly what happened to the Olympics, right?
Yep.
With weightlifting.
Yep.
The sport of weightlifting has completely evolved because the Americans were winning the clean and jerk and the snatch.
Yep.
And they wanted the other power movements taken out.
Yep.
So
They're getting beaten in the strict press.
they're getting beaten in strict press. So then they changed the game. The Russians evolved it to utilize the conjugate system. And they have been beating us ever since. And the only thing that the U.S. Olympic Committee can keep saying is they're all on drugs.
It's a level playing field, whatever that means.
Whatever that means, right? And
Yeah.
here's the things too: is I went down the USAW track before, so you do your USAW one. It says it right there on the front page. The purpose of that program is recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for anybody who shows potential. So Leanne walks in there; she's got a pretty good clean and jerk. She's fairly strong. She's a couple pounds away. They like to take that individual and they want to continuously refine technique instead of making them stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So then you go to the USAW2, and I did this at the Olympic Training Center during COVID, and they have you submit athlete videos. This is an athlete that you're working with. Let's take a look. And so my athletes are all CrossFitters. And I submit my first athlete. It's a clean and jerk video. The guy said, wow, this guy's amazing. Where does he train at? I was like, he trains at my gym. And he said, oh, man, does he compete? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, in CrossFit. And he goes, like that. And then the next one comes up, and they're showing other videos, and they're breaking down people's techniques and shit. And then I have another guy because you can't submit the same person twice. So I submit another CrossFit athlete, and it's the snatch. He's like, wow, that guy pound for pound is like almost as strong as all the guys we have here.
Yeah.
Where does he train at? What does he do? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, he's a CrossFitter. And the guy goes, if these fucking people in CrossFit would stop wasting their time, they could be Olympians, blah, blah, blah. And I said,
It's the training.
well, and then this is where I almost got thrown out. I said, if they stopped doing CrossFit and they trained the way that you guys train, they would only get a 1 to 2 kilo PR once every 4 years. I said, my guys get a PR every time they touch the bar. And this is the director of sport. He goes, if you think you fucking know better than me, you can get out, blah, 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 this and that. And like, he just went off. He like lost his mind because nobody had ever told him that he's not God's gift to Olympic weightlifting. And it's like, hey, I might not know the technicalities of fucking sport the way you do, but I know how to get somebody stronger. And Klokov said it best as a actual Olympian who's produced, gold medals both for himself and for other
and his
people.
father.
And his father. One of the things he said is like, hey, Americans, you spend so much time working on technique and you don't get stronger. He's like, we stopped doing that when we were kids.
Yeah,
and all we focus on is getting stronger.
It's kind of like the whole agility thing,
they
right?
They really work towards technique to like 13, 14 years old to teenagers, and then after that it's physical output, right? And it's the same thing. Like when you're working with kids should be two things. When you train young kids, it should be work capacity and agility. The more agile, the better body awareness they have, the easier they are to coach, the bigger work capacity they have. When they're old enough and they figure out what sport they're going to go into, then you can start building the actual physical attributes of those said sports. So work capacity and agility are huge.
Soccer players are a lot of fun to work with because they really understand their bodies.
And they have a work capacity.
Yeah, and they have a great work capacity, so you can really get those guys strong really fast.
Yep, 100%. So, in the United States, I'm not saying there's no Olympic lifting coaches that do strength work. Well, they all technically say they do strength work. There is a rare percentage that are strength coaches and do Olympic lifting technique.
Well, Travis Mash, he's one of them.
Yeah, Travis Mash is great.
He works the conjugate system, and he's been basically shunned from the fucking Olympic community.
And he produces.
And
he was a great power lifter, in his own right. So that's the whole point, right? And it's the conjugate system came from weightlifting. So if you look at obviously we all know what the Russians have done in weightlifting. And then the Chinese didn't medal in Olympic lifting until they sent their two best athletes to Russia. And then they medaled 9 months later in the Olympics. And then they became the coaches for the Olympic team. And so the problem is
much if they're at a high level.
No,
right?
The problem that we have, and we don't need to get into Olympic, I think that's another 20-hour conversation, is that we have a lot of technique coaches. Because you teach Olympic lifting does not make you a strength coach. If you're working on technique, but you don't have a way to make someone actually faster in different speeds that's required for them in different position, and you don't have a way to get them to produce more absolute force and while maintaining perfect position for that technique, then you're not a strength coach. You're a technique coach. I'm not knocking you. If you produce an Olympic athlete who wins a gold medal, then you were a technique coach that produced an Olympic athlete who won a gold medal. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. But you're not a strength coach, and that's where you're lacking. So the ego of that person...
Just because I can drive a car doesn't mean I'm a fucking...
And I will say this, the ego of that coach to act like that when he said that, you're not a strength coach. Why would you get mad at that? All I know is that we have a lot of Olympic lifters in the United States that have not produced what they could produce, so you're holding them back when they go to the Olympics, and that's disgraceful to this country and to me working with an athlete, and it really ticks me off. If I'm going to work with an athlete, I'm going to put my heart and soul in an athlete, and I'm going to get them where they want to go. I am in the business of improving someone's quality of life. Getting someone to lose is not improving their quality of life, okay? So it's not about you as a coach. I don't get mad as a coach like that because I should be in the background. You shouldn't know who I am. You should know who my athletes are.
Correct.
Okay? And when you want to make it about you and you want to get mad about stuff, what have you produced? How many Olympic gold medals, how many world records have you produced?
Zilch.
And if you're not, and tell me your background in strength conditioning. Tell me what you've done to get them stronger. Tell me what you've done to get them faster in different angles that they needed to beat their opponents. And if you're not a great strength and conditioning coach, do you really know technique as well as you think you do? Because if the muscle groups are imbalanced and you're optimizing technique for an individual that's not built perfect for their sport, you're not a great technique coach either. You should recognize what a perfect built athlete for their sport is, and then the technique should be adjusted for an athlete perfectly built. I had a guy, took a seminar with Klokov, And I asked him, I was like, hey, so what do you think when he came back? He goes, oh, I loved it. He's like, it's like listening to you. And he's like, he goes, one of the guys in the chorus goes, man, he's like, could you imagine how much you could lift if you had the technique that the U.S. Weightlifters have? Of course, that's a question. And he said, you guys over exaggerate hip position a lot. He goes, you will exaggerate position and you will have a coach who figures out a technique to get you to lift another kilo or two more with a poorly built body for your sport. He said, my coach would say your coach is a poor coach. You must first build the athlete, give them the perfect build for their sport, and then your technique, will come with that. He goes, for me, he goes, I just yank the bar in a straight line, and he goes, I have the posterior strength to maintain that. I don't have to over exaggerate my hips. He goes, because you go get a few kilo PR because someone teaches you to over exaggerate your hips, you think that you have better technique than me because yours looks different. He goes, you're not built for the sport. If you were, you're left.
Well, and you look at the Chinese weightlifters too, and again, not to go down this big weightlifting rabbit hole, which I seem to have pushed us down. Those guys are strong enough to compete in powerlifting, right? Maybe not like a world record, but like their squat, their deadlift, it's nothing to fucking bat an eye at. And these dudes are they could easily change gears and they could do that.
If they switch sports,
change gears and they could be bodybuilders.
Yeah,
like they could easily change gears and they could be wrestlers. Like these guys are fucking built from head to toe. They look like an athlete when they walk in the room. It's very intimidating. You look at our guys, it's not very intimidating. Like they don't look that way.
Yeah. And here's the thing. We've known American weightlifters to fail drug tests too. I'm not knocking anybody. Every country has people who's failed tests, everybody who's passed tests. If you pass a test and you get your medal at the Olympics, I'm not arguing past there because I don't want to pretend that someone beat one of my athletes because I think they're on, because what if they weren't? I'm not going to condemn somebody who didn't get found out for sure. Okay. If they get caught years later, they find out, great. But unless they tested my athlete the same way, then I don't want to even claim that, because what if my athlete did something I didn't know about and they passed the test, but they took something too. So once you win the medal, you win the medal to me, and it's done. I like to give credit where credit's due, and I'm not going to take something away from somebody. But what I'm going to say is the Russian and the Chinese weightlifters are the most muscular weightlifters that you're going to see out there. There's a reason why. It's the way we train. Just like when you see our CrossFit competitors, they're the most muscular ones that you see walking out there. Just like she was the most muscular volleyball player when she walked out there, compared to other people. It's because the attributes, we're not trying to make them muscular. This is not bodybuilding. What we're doing is building attributes and making sure they're well-rounded. So you start to see other muscle groups that are more developed than others because we're either protecting muscle group, like maybe protecting spines or protecting shoulders, so the shoulders might be more developed. We're building bigger triceps, so we have stronger triceps to keep that acceleration to a lockout when you're in a jerk. We're building these different attributes.
Well, I think we've already proven the game too. Like now that they have I forget what the new thing is now, but they have basically this. It's a professional doping league. I forget what it's called.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
But they're trying to see, with state-sponsored doping, can they break these world records? Can they take a middle-of-the-road Olympian and can they make them a top-caliber athlete? They did it with Icarus. When they followed Lance Armstrong's protocol to a fucking T. The guy got worse.
Yeah, he got slower.
Yeah. They did it with a swimmer. He couldn't fucking break the world record.
Right.
Drugs aren't going to make, and we gotta stop that fucking argument. It's like, okay, yes, are there people who did drugs? Sure. But now they're doing drugs at the highest fucking level. There's no hiding it. It's out in the open. They're using the most sophisticated
genetic
process.
doping.
Yeah, and it's not working.
What it comes down to is when you see a country reduplicate over and over and over and over again, it's a system. So, you can't beat them by more drugs. If you say it's drugs, you're not paying attention to their system, which you should be paying attention to their system. So you might figure a way to beat them. That's where Louis would say, reduplicate before you innovate. And what he meant by that is if I was an Olympic lifting coach in the United States and I started getting beat by Russia all the time, I'm going to go talk to the Russian coach and I'm like, so what makes you guys so good? What have you guys been doing? Now, I love this sport and I don't want to sit here and clearly I need to learn more.
Yeah.
And, surprising. He'd probably tell me everything or 95%,
He'll tell you
99%.
something.
He'll tell me plenty.
Yeah.
That I'll be able to figure out the rest if I just put my work in. And if I can produce athletes at the same level he is with his system, then if I do, then I might have innovations that come forward. But those innovations are valid because I now understand all the things that don't work. So when I always say I experiment with people all the time, and people would get at my gym, some people get freaked out like, I don't need you to experiment with me. I'm like, why? It's going to work. It's going to work. You're not going to get hurt. Does it work as well as I want it to? Is it a 5 pound PR or is it a 50 pound PR? It's going to work because it's within a framework. It's within laws. It's like laws of physics. I can't get
just
into
watch
physics
people, watch
without
people warm
getting
up.
outside laws of
Watch
physics.
people warm up. Like you see
Yes.
the top teams in whatever the sport is.
Mhm.
Watch how they warm up. Watch what they do when they're in the weight room. Like, all that now is so available.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on YouTube and you can watch the Chinese weightlifting team, warming up, working out in between events and things like that. And what are they doing? They're on the GHD, right? They are,
Where was the GHD invented, by the way? Oh, the Russians for Olympic lifting to work their hamstrings. How many do we have in Olympic lifting gyms in the United States?
Fucking zilch.
We don't. You were in Olympic Training Center, right?
Yep.
Do you see any?
I can't remember seeing any. Now, it's not saying that they didn't.
They might have some now, but I know like about 8 to 10 years ago or so, there was zero in there.
Yeah, I didn't see them.
Yeah. So the thing is, what I'm getting at is pretty simple. Reduplicate before you innovate. Understand the sport of what you're doing. Understand where you're at. He talked about like, did I work with a volleyball player before? No, like I worked with her and got her to a high level with very little experience because I understand speeds, I understand maintaining body positions, I understand what qualities need to improve in the athlete, which ones what they need to do to fortify to keep themselves injury resilient. I understand those things.
And you stayed within your scope of practice. You didn't like say, "Hey, I think you're serving the ball wrong."
Well, and there was a lot of feedback back and forth.
Yes.
It's like if I was feeling like I was deficient in something, it's like, hey, I'm noticing this, or he'd ask me questions like, hey, how is this going? So, like,
okay, what muscle does that work?
Right.
Like, I had her doing some like pulling her elbow back with bands, right?
Yeah.
And for like serve thing was to protect and strengthen her shoulder and not allow her shoulder to roll forward. And I'm like, if you feel like this will like do anything to mess up your technique, we're not doing it. Like I have this idea, but you got to give me feedback because what I don't want to do is we came out of this fad, which is still going on, of sport specific training. And the problem is I am not, where I have a problem with like say an Olympic lifting coach who does not strength train, they do Olympic lifting. I have a problem with them getting mad about someone saying they're not a strength coach. You're not, but that's okay. You could be the best technique coach in the world. I'm not taking anything away from you. I'm not teaching Olympic lifting. You want to know why? Because I'm not the #1 Olympic lifting coach in the world. That's why I'm not teaching it. I
make those motherfuckers strong.
Yeah, I trust me. Like there's not an Olympic lifting coach in the world that I couldn't bring something to the table to make their athlete better. Would I say I'm a better Olympic lifting coach? No, I'm not as good as them. I can give them something, but I'm not a technique coach in Olympic lifting. I didn't get into that sport. I did not work with the highest level coaches in the world. So therefore, do I think I could learn it? Of course I think I could learn it.
Every time I run into Coach B, he talks about that time when he went up to West Side, you and Lou with his son.
He's a great dude.
And Lou said, I can get him to PR right now. And he goes, he hasn't PR'd in years. Bullshit.
No.
And very similar personalities between the two, and Lou puts the bands on him. Most people have heard this story. Gets him to pull a little harder. Then he goes and he smokes the next weight, which happened to be a PR without the bands. Coach B was a believer at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I see this guy, bump into him at the games or whatever, he tells me the story fucking verbatim. And to this day, what was that, like 15 years ago? It had to have been more than maybe.
Yeah.
To this day, it still fucking blows his mind. He's never
full.
You know what? So Coach Bergner, so, he makes some comments and people are going to want to say, oh, you don't like Olympic lifting coaches. I do. It just depends which one.
Yeah.
I think the sport's phenomenal. And Coach Bergner is an absolutely awesome dude. He's like
also been shunned from the community from looking at things differently.
Yes, because we had conversations. He talked to Lou. He talked to me. That dude is a lifelong learner. Like at his age, like that dude constantly wants to learn. He gives everything to the sport. And the thing is, like he realized at one point, he goes, I get it now. He goes, I used to get mad. And he goes, I get it now. He goes, you're right. He goes, we are technique coaches. We aren't strength coaches. He's like, somewhere along the line, we worried so much about technique, we lost that. And he recognized that. And then, people want to shun him for it. It's like, no, that's the guy you need. He should actually, like, he should be one of the highest regarded guys in the United States. Like, they should, like, I don't know the Olympic, the U.S. Olympic team's coach, so I can't speak on him. But Coach Bergner,
he was in that rotation at one
but
point.
Coach Bergner should be should be there. Like, he should be like one of the people they should listen to help innovate and take it to another level, because he gets it now. He understands. He has lived the life. Like, great dude. But sports specific training, leave it to the technique coaches, right? I'm not going to pretend to be the best boxing coach in the world, or the best Olympic lifting coach in the world, or the best, pitching coach in the world. That is not me. But I do understand how to optimize that athlete. And the issue that you have is, you have a lot of these people who want to make money, say, I'm a strength conditioning coach, and they're like, okay, we're going to make you swing a baseball bat, but it's going to be a 10-pound bat. And we're going to make you throw a baseball. They found that
you're training the slower speed.
yeah, they found that, I think it was, if I remember right, there was a study. I want to say it was between 1 and 3 ounces plus or minus using a baseball, that you could actually get faster throwing a baseball. But like, once you exceeded that amount, it actually harmed you, started changing the way you articulate the joint, the muscles that you utilize in the joint, and actually harmed the athlete and took away from them. So the thing is, it's not my job I'm not the technique coach for that. I'm not going to pretend to be. There's someone out there better than me at that. So my job is to optimize the athlete, so that technique coach, it makes it so they have all the attributes they've ever wanted for an athlete in their sport. And I have someone who's built injury resilient, optimize the output and their ability. And once an athlete, so like the way we build speeds, so we optimize an athlete through the full range of motion for their said sport. We use accessories to optimize the structure of the athlete for their sport, and that optimization of leverages and structure, and then movement quality. So we optimize movement quality by selecting special exercises to get them to move perfectly within the space of their sport. Then when I hand that athlete over to a technique coach, it should make it extremely easy to teach technique, because once their body's introduced to perfect technique, their body wants to be there because it's built for it. So it would actually feel more uncomfortable to do a technique that's not optimized. And the reason why you have so many athletes, we've heard this out of kids growing up, and we've felt this way as athletes growing up. You're like, oh my God, why is it so hard to do perfect technique, man? It's like a fight. It feels so unnatural.
Right.
Because we're not balanced for it. We're not built for it. We have deficiencies that are not being addressed, and we're actually going to do this technique with muscle groups and leverages that are not up to speed. So when I build an athlete perfect, wasn't it easy to do everything I wanted you to do once I got you going?
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
not having any bad habits, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was very, as long as you follow directions, it is perfect. And like when we go to seminars and stuff, you'll be like, can you like demonstrate like a poor technique, like pulling your knees in for a squat? And I'm like, I can't. My brain cannot do it.
She would sit there and try, and I point out to people like, do you notice that she can't do back technique if she wanted to? She's like trying. I'm like, stop trying. Like, I don't want to create a bad technique. Stop trying. But she's literally trying, and it's like, people are kind of looking like, that still looks good. It's like, yeah, it does. But
nothing too is like, ball sport athletes, right? It's a core to extremity movement.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you highlighted early on is like, hey, this athlete is coming in here with a fucking back brace.
Yeah.
They have a weak core.
Yeah.
How are we going to do a core to extremity movement pattern to maximize that? So core tightens down, limbs extend, last little bit comes from here. That's essentially what you were doing up to this point. Somehow you were good enough to get away with only doing this part of the throw.
And funny about that, right? Because since this was all restricted so long, I had extreme shoulder pain through here, and my shoulder would sublux. It would pull out of the socket because it was so tight, because I didn't have any articulation or rotation. And we thought I was going to need shoulder surgery. You remember that?
Yeah.
It was like, this is dislocating
increasing
all the time.
core strength and your contractile potential of the midline.
Yeah.
Allowed all of this to relax, and he could strengthen this, and now things are working in the proper patterning that your technique coach has been trying to tell you to do, just by strengthening the midline.
Right. Yeah.
Like, for me, it's not rocket science. Like, you're looking at how somebody throws. Somebody doesn't throw a ball like this. You don't hit a ball like this.
Right.
You don't hit a ball like that. You hit a ball through rotation.
Yeah.
So if an athlete's coming and they have back pain, if they're leaning to one side, if their shoulder's dropping, like, hey, that's a deficiency. We need to fix the midline, make the trunk stronger so that it can contract harder. So that all that energy can radiate up, down, whichever way it needs to go. Your trunk contracts, you fire off at the legs, you hit with the arm.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? There's a process, biomechanically that's happening. And if you don't understand that, all you're going to do for a strength coach is continue to make them do silly things like, you're taking a band or
If you're just doing like windmills.
Yeah, you're doing windmills, and it's like, okay, you're strengthening what? Well, you're strengthening probably the anterior delt for the rotation because the posterior chain isn't firing.
Right.
Right, because there's already something going on there, and now you fix this, and now everything along the backside can start firing the way it's supposed to.
And so what was the adjustment for that?
Yeah, so what we ended up having to do, because it was the teres minor, was so aggravated, and we were about to go into an orthopedic appointment. Shane's like, I don't want to do that. And he's like, let's see if we can fix it. And so we just did a pin and stretch, right? So he had someone holding my arm and pulling it across while he was pinning down the teres minor. It literally never subluxed again once we got it under control. And then it was, okay, now we've got to address the core, right? You clearly have bad technique because you're not trusting this. And so then we started doing those rotations where I would have a safety squat bar on my back loaded, and he would hit it to spin it back and forth to strengthen and also get rotation from my thoracic spine.
So where that come from, I used to work with a discus thrower. And the more they can twist, the more they can uncoil and build speed. So you're talking about a guy, I have to remember, he was probably about 6'6". I would say he was like a 270-pound dude.
Freak of an athlete.
Who could sit there, and I put 315 on his back, and he would rotate, and I would push it, and rotate it, and push it. And that dude would get his chest facing the opposite direction, and he could also bend over and do what Michael Phelps would do, and he would take his arms and smack the back of his knuckles together. Like he could do that. Like, I mean, he had that ability in his shoulders. But at his Olympic lifts, they would have took him for U.S. Olympic lifting team. He was so strong. I had him doing, he would do jumps to his feet with 335 on his back. Okay, from kneeling, like kneeling to his feet with 335. We would do band tension kneeling jumps to the feet. The dude was explosive, high box jumps, big bench. I mean, everything. Like he was just, he could have been a world-class powerlifter, but it could have been a world-class Olympic lifter. Like, but it was because of that was the training that was required to make him really good at throwing discus. So what I used is what we did to help open him up and get more rotation and build more strength in that. And so then when the teres minor got released, it didn't have to tighten back up again because it got tight with the dysfunction. It just, once it was tight and aggravated, it wouldn't release. So once we released it, but we had everything opened up, so now her structure was changed in the way that she was moving for her sport, didn't need to tighten up again.
Yeah.
Didn't create a problem.
But I think to put a bow on this whole thing is like, we just don't know the true human capability because there are freak athletes out there whose career is ending shortly because they're just not training properly. Or you have somebody like you talked about who is very injury resilient for whatever reason, just genetically they could withstand that, but they're still not training right, and we still haven't maximized their true potential. So if you don't understand the system, take the course. Come, call bullshit.
Yeah.
We'll work through it.
Yeah, we'll
show you why it's we'll show you why it's not bullshit. You can reach out. You can send your videos of your athletes, whatever you want to do, or if you want, just create a fake name and a fake email, subscribe to the programming, and take the credit. Like it's literally that simple.
I'm not here to knock anybody. I'm not here to put anybody down. I'm here to make people better and help them. If you have questions, if you come to a seminar, ask any question you want. We can debate anything. I don't care. I'm there to make people better at what they do. And the thing is, like when we look at athletes are the best people on the planet to hide dysfunction. They can figure out how to look world-class, be world-class while working through dysfunction. does not mean it doesn't exist. It just means that it takes longer to find it, and if it isn't found in time, it's going to be a bigger grenade. It's going to detonate harder. Okay, but all athletes have dysfunction. If they're not training with the right people in the right place, and even if they are, there's micro adjustments that always need to be made. But every athlete, they're just really good at they're better than everybody else at hiding dysfunction. So if you're a strength coach, you got to be better at finding it.
Oh yeah. We'll wrap it up there.
Right.
So,